Well, you're no stranger to switches. Didn't you just negotiate a raise with a guy who thinks he's invincible? His eyes glinted with a teasing challenge as he recalled the recent corporate showdown they had tackled together. Her laughter, a rare sound these days, rang out, lighting up the somber air. He doesn't know the half of it, she admitted, the tension dissipating slightly as their eyes locked. But it was thrilling, almost like pushing a boulder off a cliff. See, you thrive on challenges, Kymani said, closing the space between them until they stood barely inches apart. The distance felt electric, charged with possibility. What if we challenge ourselves to find joy in what we create, instead of measuring ourselves by what others expect? Elysia's heart raced, the thrill of his words blending with a magnetic pull she felt toward him. Their connection was palpable, resting on the edge of something deeper. And what happens when the dust settles, when the competition is over? I won't let you drown beneath expectations, he vowed, his voice steadied with conviction. He leaned in slightly, catching her gaze with an intensity that made her breath hitch. You're more than the sum of your struggles, Elysia. More than the company name, the board meetings. You deserve laughter, love. Before he could finish, Elysia's hand grazed his, electric and lingering. And you? She whispered, curiosity blossoming in her chest. What do you want? Kymani hesitated, his expression shifting, becoming more serious. To see you smile, to protect you from everything this world throws at you. In that moment, time seemed to stand still. The air thickened, humming with unspoken desires and flickering emotions. They stood on the precipice of revelation, drawn together by gravity and the promise of uncharted territories. Maybe we can redefine what it means to protect, Elysia murmured, the distance narrowing further until they were lost in the depths of each other's gaze, hope mingling with the kindling fire of boldness. With a beat of silence thick with emotion, Kymani breathed, let's chase the happiness we deserve together. The promise hung in the air like the tantalizing scent of rain on warm asphalt, as Elysia's heart began to unfurl in ways she'd never thought possible. Scene 74, Endurance of Love. The sun hung low over the skyline, casting a soft golden hue that seemed to infuse the city with an undercurrent of warmth. The air buzzed softly with the sound of distant traffic, punctuated by the laughter of a nearby street vendor entertaining a small crowd. Kymani Taragon stood on the balcony of Elysia Ndidi's penthouse office, taking in the view of the city he had come to love, a sprawling canvas of ambition, beauty, and fleeting shadows. The scent of fresh rain lingered from an earlier storm, mingling with the floral aroma of Elysia's favorite jasmine candles burning inside. Elysia stepped out, her presence filling the space with a magnetism that pulled Kymani's attention from the horizon. Her silk blouse, a deep emerald, flowed softly against her figure, reflecting the steadfast resolve in her gaze. You know, she began, leaning against the wall of glass that separated them from the bustling streets below, this city can change in a heartbeat. Kymani turned his gaze toward her, a half-smile playing at the corner of his lips. Much like us, I would say. He ran a hand through his curly hair, the late afternoon sunlight glistening on his skin, emphasizing the sharp lines of his jaw and the warmth of his rich complexion. We've had a few storms, haven't we? More than a few, Elysia replied, her voice tinged with nostalgia. But look what we've built together. She gestured grandly toward the shimmering skyline. This is more than just a company. It's a new legacy. True. Kymani's tone turned solemn, just like the pride we've taken back from those who underestimated us. He stepped closer, his warmth enveloping her, an electricity crackling between them that twisted the moment. Elysia tilted her head back, catching the playful ruin of his dark humor. You mean those who thought we wouldn't last through a single board meeting? Precisely. Kymani leaned against the glass, inches from her, their mutual respect mingling with the flutter of attraction beneath the surface. What do they know about heart and resilience, huh? They've only known power games, not partnerships. The rhythm of their hearts seemed to sink, yet the tension flared in the air, thick with unspoken words and promises. Power games seemed to be the currency of high stakes, Elysia mused, locking her eyes into his, finding an intensity that made her breath hitch ever so slightly. But we've shown them the truth about passion and our own strength. She felt bold, but her pulse quickened as Kymani's gaze bore into her with an intensity that made her feel both vulnerable and empowered. A small laugh escaped the bubble of seriousness. "Next time, I should wear a cape to our meetings, just to prove I'm the hero in this story," Kymani quipped, a playful grin spreading across his face. Elysia's laughter bubbled forth, delight warming her cheeks. "Just don't forget your tights. A hero in a tailored suit is all well and good, but a cape and tights? That's positively Regency ridiculous." "Hey!" Kymani pretended to be offended, his hand pressing against his chest in mock anguish. "This is a direct attack on my fashion sense." Another giggle escaped, lightening the mood, but then the tension returned as Elysia paused, her expression shifting. "But seriously, Kymani," she said softly, leaning into the moment, "what if we fail? What if all this is just a series of storms waiting to drown us?" Before she could retreat into a spiral of uncertainty, Kymani stepped forward, cupping her face gently. "What if we fly?" he murmured, his voice low and sincere. "What if we turn those storms into our very own winds?" In that moment, the world around them faded, their differences and fears melted away by the warmth of their shared dreams and undeniable chemistry. A flicker of intimacy ignited, palpable and electric, as Kymani tilted his head slightly, bringing their foreheads together. The air shifted, buzzing with unsaid intentions. "Promise me, you'll never doubt us again," he whispered, the space between them shrinking impossibly small, his breath warm against her skin. "Only if you promise to wear tights to the next board meeting," she teased softly in return, a sparkle dancing in her eyes. "Deal," Kymani laughed. And in that fleeting moment of joy, with the city sprawled beneath them, Kymani and Elysia stood resolute, ready to claim their place amidst the chaos, harnessing the winds of the life they would fly towards together. "Together," Elysia breathed, the word of vow shared in the profound silence between them. Scene 75. In a different light. The fluorescent lights hummed softly over the heads of the small team in Elysia Ndidi's office, casting a sterile glow on the polished mahogany table that had seen ambitious dreams take flight. Elysia leaned against the edge of that table, arms crossed, surveying her team as they engaged in the brisk exchange of ideas. The whiteboards were dotted with intricate drawings and colorful markers, their vibrant hues contrasting sharply with the stark industrial aesthetic of the room. Each marker stroke carried the weight of urgency, a reminder of the impending project deadline that hung over them like a threatening storm cloud. Kymani Taragon lounged casually in his chair, a striking figure against the plain backdrop, his deep-set eyes capturing every flicker of energy in the room. He hadn't intended to attend when Elysia slumped into the meeting earlier that afternoon, but something within him shifted. Perhaps it was the way her brow furrowed with determination, or how she pulled those loose strands of hair behind her ear, inadvertently advertising her vulnerability to their co-workers, a vulnerability that clashed with the fierce ambition she exuded. "All right, team," Elysia declared, her voice ringing with authority. "Let's get this timeline clear before we're swallowed whole by the competition." A pause hung in the air, thick with the anticipation of her team members, who exchanged steely glances and nervous laughter, each one grappling with their individual roles in this high-stakes game. "Exactly," Kymani added with a slight smirk, leaning forward. "And if we're going to defeat the evil empire, then we must maximize our collaborative powers. The dark side won't know what hit it." A chuckle spread around the table, dispelling the tension as Elysia rolled her eyes melodramatically. "I didn't realize I had joined a Jedi Council, but let's keep our lightsabers holstered until I finish this coffee." "Good idea," Kymani retorted playfully. "I like you caffeinated, not caffeinated and panicking." "Hey," she protested, laughing. "This is pure chaos, Kymani. I'm just trying to make sure we don't burn out before the deadline." "What if you approach it differently?" Kymani suggested, lowering his tone slightly, the underlying seriousness of his intent placing a gentle pressure on her shoulders. "Take charge, show them you own it, they'll follow your lead." Elysia glanced at her colleagues, who were now immersed in animated conversations, the playful energy weaving through the room. She hesitated. Beneath her bravado lay the old feelings of self-doubt. What if they don't think I'm capable? What if they... "Elysia," Kymani interrupted, his voice almost a whisper, the warmth of his presence stifling her doubts. What if you embrace their insecurities instead? Nobody believes you can succeed as much as you do. You're the storm and the calm. They need to see both. At that moment, a profound silence enveloped them, the world around them stilling in reverence to the weight of Kymani's words. Elysia found herself entranced by his fervent gaze, accompanied by a swirling mix of admiration and affection. She drew in a deep breath, struggling to forge a response amidst the rising tide of emotion. "Okay, fine," she relented, a lopsided smile breaking through her apprehension. "But if I crash and burn, I'm blaming you." "Deal," he replied, a playful glimmer igniting his dark eyes. "But first, let's get this plan concrete. You've got it in you, trust me." As they dove back into strategizing, leaning in closer, the air around them thickened with a hint of electric tension. Elysia could smell his cologne's smoky cedarwood laced with something unique, something undeniably Kymani. It was distracting, intoxicating, and she felt uncharacteristically bold, almost daring to reach across the table and touch his hand. But she held back, letting a teasing smile dance across her lips. "By the way, if we do this like a Jedi Council," she said, "does that mean I get to wear a Jedi robe?" Kymani chuckled, a low, rich sound that seemed to reverberate through her senses. "Only if I get a shiny lightsaber," he shot back, grinning. "Or I'll be known as Darth Taragon, and that sounds too much like a whole new level of trouble." Just then, the office door swung open with a dramatic flourish. Jared, the company's boastful marketing head, barged in, dramatically tossing his jacket over his shoulder. "Busy little bees, are we? An earthquake might happen with all this brainstorming happening." Elysia couldn't help but laugh, bolstered by Kymani's unwavering support. "Just strengthening our leadership abilities, Jared. Why don't you get on board before we're swept away by the tsunami?" As the banter continued, Elysia's heart flickered with newfound vigor, a sense that maybe, just maybe, she was on the brink of something remarkable. Not just in business, but perhaps intertwined with everything untold beneath the velvet ashes of their shared journeys. Scene 76. Beyond doubt. Elysia stood at the expansive kitchen island, fingers gently sliding over the smooth surface of a glossy, polished marble cutting board. The sense of fresh herbs filled the air, melding with the soft, warm light filtering in through the tall windows of her downtown penthouse. Today, she was determined to tackle the tabbouleh recipe that had languished in her to-cook list for far too long. Each chop of the knife on the cutting board felt more like slicing through her lingering doubts than any vegetable. Kymani leaned against the doorway, his tall figure framed against the fluorescent light of the hallway. Watching her in this moment felt almost surreal. He admired the way Elysia's dark curls danced as she moved, how the playful flick of her wrist sent specks of parsley flying like tiny confetti. But there was something else in her eyes. Uncertainty swam beneath her determined facade, unsaid words piled high between them. "Are you always this meticulous?" Kymani teased, a crooked smile breaking through his usually serious demeanor. He stepped closer, his presence enveloping the kitchen like a summer storm. Elysia glanced up, a playful glint sparking in her gaze. "I could say the same about you lurking around. Aren't you supposed to be my hero in distress?" She chopped the tomatoes a bit too roughly, unleashing her frustration into the rhythm of the knife. "Lurking, huh? I prefer covertly observing. It's an art form." He sauntered to her side, an unmistakable warmth radiating from him as he edged closer. "What can I do to help? Should I chop the cucumbers, or do you prefer to ruin more vegetables?" His brow arched in playful defiance, a challenge only she could hear. "Just hold the parsley and keep your commentary to a minimum." Elysia's lips turned into a teasing grin as she pretended to ignore him, though she reveled in his banter. Kymani grabbed a handful of parsley, tossing it up in the air like confetti, his laughter echoing in the kitchen. "Voila! The finest parsley holder at your service," he proclaimed dramatically. Elysia chuckled, shaking her head as she resumed chopping. But as she concentrated, the weight of unspoken feelings began to seep in, intertwining with the aroma of the dish. She needed to address the ever-present tension between them, the doubts intertwined with his secretive nature, the worries of a partnership at risk. "Seriously," she began, her tone shifting to something more earnest. "How do we navigate this? We both know I'm not exactly Miss Perfect, she said, letting out a hum of frustration. The knife paused mid-chop as she attempted to open her heart. Sometimes I feel like I'm juggling everything and just waiting for it to fall apart. I can't keep pretending that the shadows lurking in the corners don't scare me. Kymani stepped closer, grounding her moment with his presence. Elysia, you're stronger than you think. I see it in how you run this place, how you manage your company, and how you chase down your dreams. His voice was steady, imbued with an undeniable warmth that made her stomach flutter. But shadows aren't entirely bad. They can keep us company in moments of doubt. The silence between them thickened, a tension heightened and woven with something deeper. Elysia's breath caught as Kymani reached for her hand, his fingers brushing against hers, invoking a rush of sensations. Suddenly, the kitchen was no longer just a cooking space. It was a stage where their unspoken feelings began to perform. "You and I," he murmured, leaning in as her heart raced. "We're better together, aren't we? Even when things get dark." His breath swept over her skin like a warming breeze, and suddenly, the bustling sounds of the city outside faded, replaced by the intoxicating allure of the moment. The world could wait as they stood caught in their own bubble, the challenges looming over them momentarily forgotten. Elysia met his gaze, her pulse echoing in her ears. "Then let's face them together," she whispered, vulnerability trickling into her words. Almost instinctively, he cupped her face with his free hand, his thumb gently grazing her cheek. She leaned into the warmth of his touch, finding solace in the strength he offered. "I promise I'll fight for you, Elysia, even against the shadows of my own past." Their lips met in a soft yet fervent kiss, a connection swelling with unexpressed emotions, the fears, the hopes, the desire to conquer whatever lay ahead. Time unraveled around them, the kitchen fading into a backdrop of promise and potential. And just like that, as they drew back, the connection lingered between them, rich with unbreakable bonds, faith, and a shared path forward. "Now," he teased, breaking the silence with a smile that could light up the room, "how about that cucumber?" Elysia laughed, her heart lighter than it had been moments before. "You're really not as useless as I thought." "Ha, I'll take that as a compliment," he said, his eyes dancing with mirth. "Even if I'm just a pretty face over here. Don't push your luck." In that shared laughter, hope reignited, stronger than the brewing storms beyond the kitchen window. Scene 77. The last puzzle piece. The conference room hummed with the fading echoes of yesterday's tumult, a clash of ideals amid rising tensions, each voice a note in a cacophony that left Elysia Ndidi momentarily adrift in thought. She stood at the glass wall, fingers tracing the sleek surface, catching reflections of a city buzzing with a heartbeat that matched her own. In her mind, the fluorescent lights danced like fireflies, blurring the edges of her anxiety with flickers of optimism. Kymani Taragon entered quietly, his presence a weighty comfort accompanying the sharp scent of fresh coffee. His tall silhouette transformed the space, contrasting against the skyline painted in late-afternoon gold. She turned, her heart aligning with the steady rhythm of his footsteps. "Got your favorite," he said, nodding toward the steaming cup he lifted. The corners of his mouth quirked, and his dark eyes sparkled with mischief. "I even got a slice of that lemon cake you love. You know, the one that makes your taste buds dance like it's trying to win a competition? It's like an Olympic event for cake." Elysia arched an eyebrow, tension momentarily dissipating. "Is that so? Sounds like you're trying to bribe me again." She crossed her arms, her lips twitching in a growing smile. "Bribe you? No," he said, feigning innocence. "It's all part of my diabolical plan to secure the greatest business partnership of the century, subtly sweetening the deal." "Subtlety is your strong suit," she teased, taking the cup from him. Their fingers brushed, sending a spark that ignited the still air between them. "What's next? A bouquet of flowers?" "Only the kind that blooms with profit," he shot back, leaning against the table with an ease that belied the chaos they faced. "Besides, the city's about to expand drastically, and I have a few ideas on how we can stake our claim." Elysia took a sip, the tart lemon zinging across her tongue. "I can taste your ambition. It's a potent blend." Kymani's gaze lingered, a subtle intensity weaving through an electric silence. "What if we transformed that empty building on Main, the one with the cracked facade? I can already envision an art gallery on the first floor, a tech hub upstairs. It could be a mashup of creative minds and innovation. A bold move, she replied, stepping closer to the table. Ideas spiraled through her, each possibility dancing like rain on pavement. Are you sure we can take that kind of risk? Every risk has a reward, Elysia. This could be more than just growth for us. It could redefine how the public sees our brands. As he spoke, Kymani leaned in, their chemistry palpable like the slight warmth from her coffee cup in her hands. You always know how to pull me back from doubt. Her voice softened, the sincerity lacing her words. Do you ever worry about the dangers lurking beneath the surface? Constantly, he admitted, the mask of confidence slipping for just a heartbeat. But I've learned that facing a storm is better than standing still. I'd rather wage a battle with you at my side than fight alone. That moment seemed to stretch like an elastic band, a precarious balance between their world brimming with promise and the shadows that lurked close. Elysia felt it, the pull between them now thicker than the air they breathed. Can we do this? She said, her voice barely a whisper, yet tinged with audacious determination. With a deliberate slowness, Kymani reached out, his fingers brushing against her arm. We can, he said, quiet ferocity lacing his tone. And we will. Silence enveloped them again, but this time it was filled with the unspoken plans, hopes, and something deeper coursing like the thrum beneath their skin. His hand lingered, warm and reassuring, a tether against the whirlwind that threatened to unfurl their cautious ambitions. Elysia's heart raced as Kymani's gaze bore into hers with a depth that ignited her spirit, an undeniable connection solidifying between them, one that went beyond business plans and hidden fears. She took a breath, the mingled scents of coffee and lemon wrapping around her in a cocoon of comfort and promise. What's our next move? She breathed, falling deeper into his presence. His lips curved into a smile, one that matched the glint in his eye. Together, I think we might just conquer the world. As the shadows of doubt faded, Elysia found herself stepping toward the future, embraced in the powerful undertow of possibility. With Kymani beside her, even the unfathomable felt like a challenge they could meet head-on. Scene 78, a dance of possibility. The evening air hummed with the soft strains of a string quartet, notes swaying like leaves in a gentle breeze. Candles flickered atop elegant tables draped in white silk, illuminating Kymani Taragon's striking features as he entered Elysia Ndidi's company celebration. The vivid hues of the evening gold, deep burgundy, and hints of indigo contrasted beautifully against the fine fabric of his tailored suit, accentuating an air of command that turned heads. He scanned the room, each smile and polite nod exchanged with business partners betraying an undercurrent of tension. Elysia stood near the polished bar, her copper skin glowing, framed in layers of emerald chiffon that danced lightly around her as she moved. She talked with a colleague, laughter spilling from her like fine wine. Yet behind her sparkling eyes, something deeper flickered, a trace of uncertainty just beneath the surface. Kymani approached, weaving through the crowd, each step purposeful. Enjoying the festivities? He asked, his voice smooth but laced with a hint of something more profound. Elysia turned, her smile faltering for just a moment at his intensity. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? She replied lightly, raising an eyebrow. Or are you here to steal my thunder? Thunder. Impressive for someone who's been too busy soothing her rivals, he said, a playful smirk hovering at the corner of his lips. He gestured to the room around them, mimicking a grandiose announcer. Ladies and gentlemen, the undisputed queen of corporate resilience. She laughed, the sound rich and ringing, but it was tinged with another layer of complexity. Let's hope I can keep that title after tonight. You know how cutthroat this industry is. Kymani took a step closer, his voice dipping low as if sharing a secret. You have more strength than you give yourself credit for. Just don't let the competition define you. Their eyes locked, and for an instant the world around them faded. What began as a light-hearted banter shifted, and the weight of unspoken emotions hung thick in the air. Sensing an underlying invitation, he extended his hand with a flourish. Care to dance? Elysia hesitated, her heart racing against her ribs. Dance? With you? She teased, though her breath hitched slightly. The flirtation was playful, but a deeper undercurrent surged beneath her jest. Do I need to twist your arm? Kymani said, gently tugging on her hand, his thumb brushing against the softness of her palm. Besides, you owe me after all those caffeine-fueled brainstorming sessions. I'd say we're even, she replied, her eyes glinting mischief before finally relenting, placing her hand in his. As he led her to the center of the room, the string quartet shifted into a more romantic cadence, rich with melody. Kymani positioned Elysia in front of him, fingertips grazing her waist as he pulled her closer. The closeness stirred electricity, igniting pulses of warmth between them. We're going to look ridiculous, you know, Elysia quipped, glancing at the couples swirling around them with practiced elegance. Ridiculous? Nah, just captivating, Kymani whispered, his voice low, smooth, much like the velvet she had imagined him against. The soft laugh that escaped her was contagious, and they began to sway imperfectly, laughter threading through the air like the music itself. See? Captivated already, he said teasingly. You're such a show-off, she remarked, her tone sarcastic, but the glint in her eyes betrayed her pleasure. Guilty as charged, he replied, twirling her with a lightness that forced her to surrender, her heart flipping as he reeled her back in. Captured in this delicate moment, the world around them fell away, and intimacy laced the fabric of their conversation. Elysia, you're more than just your company or your accolades, he murmured, leaning slightly closer, their foreheads grazing. The heady scent of his cologne enveloped her, notes of cedarwood and fresh linen, grounding and intoxicating. Your warmth, inspiration, possibility. She caught her breath, aware of the brilliance shimmering in the air between them. And you're a lot more complicated than you let on, she said softly, searching his eyes. Maybe, but right now I choose to be simple. His gaze intensified, a flicker of vulnerability igniting just behind the admiration. Right here with you. Elysia's heart raced. This moment felt simultaneously thrilling and perilous. What if? Kymani's thumb brushed her chin, tilting her face up slightly. What if, indeed? Just then, out of nowhere, Elysia's colleague, Marcus, approached the pair with unmistakable enthusiasm. Ah, look at the power couple! You two should really star in one of those rom-coms. I'd buy tickets! The moment fractured, but Elysia couldn't help but chuckle as Kymani's expression turned to bemusement. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Marcus, Kymani said, deadpan. Yeah, we'll get right on that, Elysia added, her laughter carrying a weight of hope mingled with reality. Just as soon as we figure out our lines. Kymani watched her with a smile, a warmth enveloping them. Lines, or life? I'm still figuring that out. Elysia met his eyes and felt that the dance was far from over. Scene 79. Moving forward. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a rich golden hue over Elysia's sprawling terrace. The scent of jasmine wafted through the air, mingling with the distant soundtrack of a city that buzzed with ambition and dreams. Each breeze that rustled the leaves felt like a solemn whisper of the future, urging decisions to be made. Elysia stood at the railing, hands resting on the cold iron, her mind a tempest of plans and hopes swirling into an uncertain future. She watched as Kymani paced the deck, his silhouette strong against the softening light, every step echoing his intensity. As he turned to her, his gaze locked on hers, it felt both like an anchor and a tempest. Do you ever think about what's next? Elysia asked, her voice barely above a murmur, yet it sliced through the tranquil atmosphere, alive with electric potential. Kymani paused, arms folded as if guarding a secret. Every day, he replied, his voice deep and measured, a tranquil sea hiding the storms beneath. Especially now, with everything that's happened. He stepped closer, his presence commanding but comforting. Right. We've been caught in this whirlwind, Elysia said, leaning slightly into the sunset. But what if we could shape it? Our future, I mean. The question hung between them, a sphere of unspoken possibilities. What does that look like for you? He asked, genuinely curious, eyes glimmering with an invitation to give in to the moment, to share visions and fears. Elysia turned to him fully, brow furrowed in thought. I want to expand the company, create programs that empower women in tech, but I can't help but feel I need to strengthen my foundation first, make sure it's solid. A sly grin crept onto Kymani's lips. You know, you're stronger than you give yourself credit for. It's like, he hesitated, searching for the right words. You're an architect, constructing dreams while standing on shifting sands. You make it look easy. She laughed, a musical sound filled with disbelief. Easy? Ha! You should see the skeletons in my closet. If my life were a building, it would be condemned. He stepped forward, the space between them narrowing. Then let me help you build a fortress, he said softly, a glint of challenge in his eyes. It's not just about having a solid foundation, it's about knowing what you want and claiming it, together. His words struck a chord deep within her, resonating with aspirations long buried beneath self-doubt. And what about your fortress, Kymani? What do you want? Elysia challenged, her voice steady but soft. He exhaled, the weight of his secrets momentarily spilling between them. To protect what matters. To be better. Not just for myself, but for people I care about. His gaze pierced hers, earnest and unguarded. Elysia took a step back, absorbing the layers of vulnerability in his words, the tension hanging like a drawn bowstring, ready to unleash. And what if that includes me? She said, probing gently, an invitation wrapped in trepidation. Kymani raised an eyebrow, a flicker of amusement dancing in his expression. Should I prepare for battle? He teased, but there was an undertone of sincerity, as if they were standing at the precipice of something monumental. She rolled her eyes playfully, but couldn't quite suppress the warmth tugging at her heart. Or perhaps a mission, 2 urban warriors against the world. A lightness washed over her, a welcome relief from the heaviness that had once clouded them both. He stepped closer again, reducing the distance to mere inches. Is that what we are then? A dynamic duo? His grin was infectious, igniting laughter in her belly, the kind that felt both freeing and intimate. A double feature, if you will, she replied, a spark igniting in her chest. Starring Kymani Taragon, his own special effects. Hey now, my special effects don't come cheap, he quipped, mocking a dramatic pose as he leaned against the railing. But I'll do it for you. Let's paint the town whatever that looks like for us. Elysia studied him, her smile faltering for just a moment. And if it risks everything? He brought a hand to her chin, lifting it gently, forcing her to meet his gaze. Nothing worth having is ever easy, Elysia, but I'd rather embrace the chaos with you by my side than fight it alone. The weight of their shared aspirations hung between them, a promise, a dream, a risk, and in that instant, their laughter faded into silence, the air thick with understanding, the horizon before them rich with untold stories, waiting to be lived. Scene 80. Blueprints of Tomorrow. The morning sun flooded through the expansive floor-to-ceiling windows of Elysia's office, illuminating the sleek lines of her mahogany desk. The room buzzed with the hum of the city outside, but inside, a deeper tension simmered as Elysia Ndidi flipped through a series of blueprints scattered across the desk. Each design page was a potential future, a dream waiting to unfurl. Her fingers traced the ambitious curves of her new project, the warehouse renovation designed to transform a dilapidated space into an expansive market for local artisans. Are we really going with the open-air concept? Kymani Taragon's voice cut through her thoughts, tinged with playful skepticism as he leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, a challenging glimmer in his deep-set eyes. Why not? Elysia shot back, a playful spark igniting between them as she met his gaze. A little fresh air never hurt anyone. More foot traffic means more community engagement. Plus, who can resist a space that invites spontaneity? Kymani chuckled, stepping further into the office, the subtle musk of his cologne mingling with the crisp morning air. Spontaneity, huh? That's one way to lure people in, along with the aroma of fresh pastries and roasted coffee, right? Now you're talking my language, Elysia replied, a light laugh escaping her lips. She looked up at him, and the room felt suddenly smaller, charged with an electric tension that lingered in the glances they exchanged. Sweeping a hand through his tousled hair, Kymani leaned in closer, eyes sharp and playful. So what's the plan, boss? You need someone to oversee those pastries? I make a mean croissant, if I say so myself. Elysia grinned. Only if you promise to wear a ridiculously tall chef's hat. I'm envisioning the bakery becoming an Instagram sensation, purely due to your unique presentation skills. A tall chef's hat, huh? Now that's definitely a way to elevate my image. Kymani smirked, allowing the playful banter to cascade over them like a familiar blanket. But right there, beneath the teasing, lay an unspoken understanding that bound them together. In all seriousness, though, I think it's a brilliant idea. Think of the partnerships we could foster, the local businesses. This could become the beating heart of the community. Elysia felt warmth curling in her chest at his support. I knew you'd see it. Together, we've got something amazing brewing. And there it was, the moment tethered by dreams, laughter hanging in the air like a heady perfume. Elysia took a step closer, her heart thudding in her chest, the gravity of their shared aspirations pulling them nearer. Maybe we should make this a joint venture, something was in this proposal. What about us? Kymani interrupted, his voice softer now. The cheeky bravado faded as he studied her with intensity. You don't need to carry this alone. I'm not going anywhere. I just... Her breath caught as she expressed emotions swirling inside. He closed the gap between them, his presence igniting sparks she couldn't ignore. The tension shifted, grew thick and sweet, and the air hummed with possibility. Ely, sometimes dreams require more than courage. They require trust. He took a breath, his dark gaze piercing into hers, the secrets and shadows in their lives hanging just above them like storm clouds. I know I hold some weighty truths, but what we're building together, your vision, we can make it work. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words tangled in her throat. Instead, she stepped back and gripped her desk, fighting to center her thoughts. You mean, us? You know we have something real. The magnetic intensity in his stare sent shivers down her spine. The moment stretched, lingering like the last rays of sunlight on fading petals. Their hearts raced as they moved instinctively closer again, like moths to a flame. Elysia caught a glimmer of vulnerability in Kymani's face, an invitation for honesty that stripped away her guards. Maybe we could be more than just partners, Elysia suggested, her voice low and tremulous. Perhaps we could explore what more means, he replied, his breath mingling with hers, warm and tantalizing. And just as the world outside faded, he cupped her face in his hands, and the distance vanished in an instant as their lips met, a hesitant brush that ignited into something fierce and consuming. The kiss deepened, rich with a promise of shared dreams and hidden fears, a symphony of hope that crescendoed within the quiet confines of ambition. As the kiss lingered, the boundaries between them dissolved, fading into a moment that dared to transcend the chaos of their lives, only to be interrupted by the shrill ring of Elysia's phone on the desk. They pulled apart almost reluctantly, their breaths mingling in the space between them. Still lingering in that charged atmosphere, Kymani smirked, breaking the tension. Saved by the phone. I knew I shouldn't have let you distract me. Next time, Elysia said, still breathless, the phone goes off when the kiss ends. Kymani laughed, and with that laugh, they found a new foundation to build upon, a blueprint of tomorrow where many storms would come, but together, they could face anything. Scene 81. Quiet moments. The late afternoon sun slanted through the towering glass windows of Kymani's penthouse, casting intricate patterns on the polished hardwood floor. Elysia stood near the plush sectional, arms wrapped around herself as if to fend off the chill in the air, not from the cool breeze drifting in, but from the heaviness that lingered after their heated argument. The clouds thickened outside, a tapestry of grays hinting at an impending storm, as if nature itself were reflecting the turmoil brewing between them. Kymani leaned against the kitchen island, his posture a study in contrasting emotions, confidence belying the tension rippling just below the surface. A single tuft of hair fell over his forehead, and he brushed it off with a deliberate calm that only infuriated Elysia more. Elysia, this isn't about you, he said softly, his voice tempered with a weight of urgency, the hint of danger lurking in his tone. I'm trying to protect you. You have to trust me. She scoffed, a sound bitter on her tongue. Trust you? You're hiding things, Kymani, secrets that put us both at risk. If you can't be honest with me, how can I possibly trust you? It feels like I'm just another pawn in your grand game. He stepped closer. The scent of sandalwood and citrus engulfed her, stirring a conflicting desire that bubbled beneath her frustration. I don't play games. This is my life at stake. He softened his gaze, and yours. She met his eyes, storms brewing within her deep brown irises. You think I'm just going to sit back and let you handle everything? Let's face it, I'm not some damsel in distress, Kymani. Damsel or not, you're still in danger, he insisted, frustration creeping into his voice. That rival of mine isn't just targeting me. They're coming for anyone connected to me, including you. Elysia felt the rush of emotion swell within her, elevating her heart rate. And I suppose you think keeping me in the dark is the best way to protect me? You may as well be throwing me into the lion's den blindfolded. Stop, Kymani shouted, the room vibrating with his force. You don't get it. I'm trying to shield you from this. You don't know what I've done, the lengths I've gone to keep us safe. He stepped closer, the air thick with tension, the storm outside raging in tandem with the fire between them. She inhaled sharply, feeling the vulnerability creeping in beneath her anger. Do you honestly believe that keeping me ignorant is protecting me? Or is it just easier for you to carry this alone? I can't lose you, Elysia. His voice had dropped to a whisper, intense and raw. A mixture of desperation and longing flickered across his features, tearing her heart in two. You have no idea what love means to me. You're everything. Elysia's defenses wavered, and she glanced away, overwhelmed by the weight of his words. Everything? Then why are you treating me like I can't handle the truth? Silence enveloped them, thick and heavy, as the storm outside unleashed its fury raindrops hammering the glass, a symphony of chaos that matched the turmoil within. Kymani reached for her, intertwining his fingers with hers, grounding them both amid the chaos. You can handle it. I just need time to figure this out. Her heart raced as she looked up at him, searching for any glimmer of hope buried within his gaze. You promise, no more secrets? From this moment on, it's just us, he vowed, squeezing her hand gently. The rest of the world faded away, leaving only the two of them, consumed in a moment that felt suspended in time. As she leaned in slightly, chance brushed their lips together, a whisper of what could be, something so electric that the world around them blurred in a haze of warmth and connection. Their eyes met, and Elysia felt the hush falling around them, the tension breaking like the clouds outside, revealing the sun. I want to believe you, Elysia murmured, and in that quickened heartbeat, laughter bubbled unexpectedly between them, startling but welcome. Elysia broke the tension. Just promise you won't turn into a bad movie villain while figuring it all out. Kymani chuckled. I'm more of a suave, misunderstood anti-hero. Thank you very much. Yeah, right. Still wearing black while the entire world is in color, huh? She teased, warmth blooming in her chest. A content smile crossed Kymani's face, the laughter a salve over their wounds. At least it's fashionable. And they stood there, surrounded by the echo of their laughter, the storm outside, and the promise of something beautiful yet to come. Scene 82. Shadows of the Past. The dim light flickered against the warm, rich wood paneling of Elysia's office, shadows dancing in rhythm with the pulse of the city beyond. Outside, the chaotic hum of life thrummed, car horns bleated, laughter burst like bubbles, and there was the intoxicating scent of rain-soaked asphalt meeting the air, laced with the sweetness of nearby blooming jasmine. But inside, amidst the leather furniture and glass walls, a tension loomed thicker than the ominous clouds gathering overhead. Elysia Ndidi leaned over her desk, furiously typing into her laptop, frustration bubbling under her skin. Of all times for Murray to pull something like this, she muttered, her fingers flying across the keys. The stark glow of the screen reflected off her determined face. Each click was a reminder that she had carved out this empire from the ground up, yet the sense of impending doom shadowed her every thought. Kymani Taragon stood by the window, his tall frame cast in shadow against the fading light. He watched her intently, a mix of admiration and concern in his dark eyes. You know he's just trying to rattle you, right? He said, leaning back, arms crossed. His voice, rich and soothing, cut through the tension like a warm knife through butter. Elysia's head snapped up, surprise accentuating her features. You think I don't know that? I just didn't expect him to get personal. She paused, biting her lip, revealing her vulnerability for perhaps the first time in days. He's hitting at things I thought were buried. Kymani stepped closer, closing the distance between them, the scent of bergamot and cedarwood enveloping her. You're not the person you were then, Elysia. You've fought too hard to be brought down by that history. Maybe. She leaned back, folding her arms defensively. But it doesn't hurt any less. It brings back memories I can't shake, and I can't afford to let him know he's gotten into my head. Then don't let him. Kymani's intensity ignited the air, a fire in his eyes. You're stronger than all of this. Oh, please. Elysia scoffed, but a hint of a smile threatened to break her facade. And here I thought you were a master of subtlety, Mr. Taragon. Subtlety is overrated. He grinned, and for a moment, the weight of their situation lightened. What you need is a robust plan, not just a mask of confidence. Just then, the lights flickered ominously, causing both of them to jump. Great. The universe itself is trying to ruin my day, Elysia quipped, rolling her eyes. Kymani chuckled, stepping even closer, their breaths almost mingling. I think you need some company, Miss Ndidi. What's the worst that can happen if I help you strategize? I'd probably make you regret it, she said, teasingly daring him. The corner of her mouth lifted, but the brief spark of humor faded under the seriousness of the situation. Anxiety knotted in her stomach. Suddenly the front door creaked open, and the silhouette of a man loomed in the frame. Elysia bristled, instinctively glancing at Kymani, who stepped protectively in front of her, body tense, muscles coiled. Who the hell are you? Kymani's voice was a slow burn, simmering with lethal calmness. Relax, the intruder said, peeling away the darkness to reveal a familiar face. Just your friendly neighborhood detective. Monty, Elysia breathed, a mixture of relief and exasperation flooding her. What are you doing here? Monty smirked, pushing his glasses up his nose. Heard some troubling news. It looks like Murray isn't done with either of you. Kymani turned, face serious again. What do you mean? What has he pulled now? Monty stepped further inside, avoiding Kymani's probing eyes. He's stirring up trouble from old ties, things that could put what you've built at risk. What do you mean, old ties? I thought we were rid of them. Elysia's voice was a mix of dread and frustration, her hands curling into fists on the desk. Kymani placed a steadying hand on her shoulder, grounding her amid the brewing storm. Let's hear it, Monty, he said calmly, shooting a quick glance at Elysia. As Monty revealed details tinged with foreboding, Elysia felt the walls closing in around her, yet Kymani's presence felt like an anchor amidst the chaos. She could feel his warmth radiating even through the turmoil, reminding her that she was not alone in this battle. So we fight again, she murmured softly, looking up at Kymani, a fierce determination sparking back to life. Together, he replied, his voice imbued with an unwavering promise that ignited her resolve. Whatever it takes. Elysia swallowed hard, hopeful yet fearful of what lay ahead, yet feeling the undeniable pull toward the man standing defiantly by her side. In this dance of shadows and uncertainties, they would stand, shoulders squared against the past. Scene 83, in the heat of the moment. The office was a sleek, modern space with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the bustling city below, concrete towers and miniature cars blending into the city's rhythm. Elysia Ndidi stood behind her glass desk, the bold lines of her tailored blazer framing her dark skin, radiant as polished mahogany. The air was tense with the faint scent of jasmine from a nearby bouquet, contrasting the heavy atmosphere thick with unspoken words. Seriously, Kymani? You think walking in here with those grand ideas will just fix everything? Elysia's voice sliced through the silence, sharper than the cut glass around them. Kymani Taragon leaned against the window frame, his tall silhouette marred by the shadows cast by the late afternoon sun. The warmth danced across his skin, yet the frustration etched on his features betrayed the suffocating heat of the moment. Elysia, I'm trying to help, but you keep shutting me out. His voice was smooth like dark chocolate, but a simmering anger threatened to spill over. Elysia folded her arms, the gesture defensive, as if bracing herself against him. Help? Or control? You present it like you're the knight in shining armor, but this is my company, not a stage for your hero complex. She was aware of her heartbeat quickening, not only from anger, but also at the thought of the vulnerability that lay beneath their discord. Kymani scoffed, bringing a hand to his slick hair, tousling the carefully styled locks as he muttered, You think I want to swoop in and play savior? I'm not trying to undermine you, Elysia. I care. Elysia's breath caught. Care? The word dripped with sarcasm, but her steely facade faltered. Caring shouldn't feel like a threat, Kymani. I've fought too hard to build this myself, and I won't let you, or anyone for that matter, take that from me. The crack in her armor was as audible as the sway of the city outside. Kymani took a step closer, his gaze unwavering. But look where this fight has brought you. You're on the brink of losing everything. Sometimes surrendering is the bravest thing you can do. The truth hung heavy in the air, resonating with an irrevocable sadness. Behind his commanding presence, Kymani wore his past like an albatross. It was tempting, too tempting to forget her battles for even a moment. "Bravery?" she whispered, almost to herself. "I'm afraid, Kymani. I'm afraid I'll fail." "No, you can't afford to think that way," he said, his tone softening, yet the intensity of his gaze remained. "You're stronger than you give yourself credit for, and I won't stand by while you pull yourself apart." The warmth emanating from Kymani enveloped her, igniting something deep within. The bold scents of his cologne intertwined with the jasmine, creating an intoxicating blend that rekindled her awareness of him, the undeniable magnetism that flickered and sparked. Are you even listening to yourself?" Elysia's heart raced at the easy confidence in his approach, another layer to the scrutiny she had felt ever since he entered her life. "You're not the only one trying to protect what you care for." "I get that." Kymani's voice lowered, a slate of unreadable emotion playing across his features. "But I can't protect you if you won't let me in." "Let you in?" she echoed, her thoughts racing. That's rich coming from someone who shrouds himself in secrecy. The shift in energy between them was palpable, tension thickening like smoke as Kymani took a further step, reducing the distance nearly to nothing. Maybe I need you to see me. The real me." Flattened shadows danced across the contours of his face, adding depth to the unguarded timbre of his voice. "I want to share everything with you, but how can I if your walls are so high?" "Walls keep out the feelings that hurt," Elysia murmured, stuck between her instinct to retreat and the magnetism drawing her nearer.